Okay, we are at the top of the hour. Welcome to Rhonda and Rockton, and they both, by the way, rock. So, Rhonda, it's all yours.
Thanks. Well, hello and welcome. I hope everyone has been enjoying acuCONNECT thus far as we're getting towards the end. My name is Rhonda. I am with Rockton Software and I have been here about 11 years now. Jen is also in the chat, so she'll be kind of keeping an eye, keeping you all in line. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask them there. She'll be assisting me. Today, I'm going to show you Rockton Pricing Management. We call it RPM for short. So I'll give you a short demo on how it works in acuMatica and kind of how you set it up. This will give you an idea of how RPM and acuMatica work together. But first, a little bit about Rockton. We've been around since 1999. We started as an ISV selling add-on products for Microsoft Dynamics GP. And one of those products was OmniPrice. It was a pricing add-on. And this is where we got the idea for RPM. It's a bigger and better version of OmniPrice. Plus, we've made RPM usable with multiple ERPs, including acuMatica. So what is RPM? Well, RPM is a web-based application. It is a SQL-based standalone solution that integrates into acuMatica. So pricing is configured and managed through the browser, and then it connects to acuMatica through a connector. And currently, RPM works with both acuMatica and Dynamics GP, with more ERPs on the way. So how does it work? So as you enter transactions, RPM goes out, looks for a price, and then pushes the price back into acuMatica, along with any adjustments like discounts, promotions, fees, or even markups. Also, you can code each of those adjustments to their own GL account. So each one could have their own GL account, which makes it so much easier to track. So let's say you offered a discount from a trade show to your leads and you wanted to keep track of that. You could create the discount and then assign a specific GL account to track the trade show leads. We created RPM to simplify your complex pricing. So within RPM, you can base your pricing from the item cost, the item price, a fixed price, and multiple other ways. And then you can create adjustments to accommodate markups, markdowns, fees, royalties, commissions, rebates, pretty much any sort of adjustment that you need to make to your pricing. You can then use filters to apply specific pricing to the specific criteria, such as customer class or the color of an item or the shipping location or a date range, many, many others. So pretty much any field that's on the customer or the item or the document can help drive your pricing. But enough talk about it. Let's go take a look at RPM in action. So in my example, I have my pricing mainly based on my customers' loyalty. All right, so let's hop over here to acuMatica. And we'll start by entering an invoice. And of course, as soon as we get down here, it'll take a little while. There we go. Okay. I'll start with a customer. And we'll add a line item. Come on. And I can see that it calculated a price for me. But if I flip over and show the details and scroll down, now I have my pricing set up so that it originates from the item cost. So here there's a 25% markup that it added, then it subtracted a 10% discount, then it added a service fee, and then it also tracked a 2% rebate that I have going on. So these might be more adjustments than you need, or you could have quite a few other adjustments. But this is just to give you an idea of the different things that you could do with this. So if I take a look over here under the modify unit price, I actually have a line that's not affecting the unit price, but it's still calculating so that I know that this amount to this GL account is tracked to that account. So I know that the $10 is there, even though it's not affecting my unit price. So I can handle that rebate later. There's also a line where I have marked it to be able to edit this field. So if I have a situation where I want to waive the fee for the customer, I can do that by zeroing it out, prompt me to make sure that I want to do that, and click yes. And so now I've waived the fee. So there's lots of different things you can do when it comes to the adjustments as well. If we hop back over here, there's also a View Diagnostics button. So if I go in here, this will tell me how RPM calculated the price. Where did it start from? So it started from the unit cost or the item cost, and then it went through each markup that I have, because I have multiple based on my customer. It goes through the discounts. Basically, any price calculation that I created, it's going to go through and see if it should be applied to this situation. And then it tells me this is the price it came up with. So this is a great tool to use if you're entering a transaction and you get results that you're not expecting, or if for some reason no amount came back because maybe something was set up incorrectly. So let's enter another line. I'll use a different item, still a quantity of 1. And calculated a price for me. So if I go back to the details, this time I have an extra discount. So again, I can have multiple discounts, multiple markups, but this discount is just for this specific item because I have a filter set up that way. So I can see the differences when it comes to my calculations. Same kind of thing, we'll notice that this is a 25% markup. If I enter another transaction, go back to the line and I'll use that same first item again. For quantity of 1. This time if I flip to my details, the markup is 34%, and that's because I used a different customer and I have my markups based on customer. So let's go take a look at that in RPM so you can see how that was set up. So in RPM, this is my menu. You'll notice there's an acuMatica data section. This is the data from acuMatica that RPM uses to build the pricing or create the pricing and calculate it out. The main thing I want to point out are these attributes. These are those extra things that are going to drive your pricing. So for customer attributes, I could base it off of my customer class, the company size, because that's a field on my customer. I could also base it on the terms. Same with item attributes. I could base it on the item class, the color of an item, or the item type even. And then with document attributes, same kind of thing. I could base it off of the location ID. I could base it off of the project or the contract that I've assigned to the document. So there's lots of flexibility when it comes to your pricing and how you're going to set it up. But where you'll spend most of your time is in this pricing section. So from here, we'll look at price schedules. So price schedules are your home base for your pricing. This is where the system is going to look to really figure out where am I going to start and what am I going to calculate. And how it's done is through this ERP ID. These ERP IDs are actually the customer price classes in acuMatica. So that's how they tie together. And with the pricing, there's 2 methods that you could use. You could use static pricing or dynamic pricing. Static pricing is basically saying, hey, let's just let the customer price class default in, and then we'll come into RPM, find the matching price schedule, and that's how we're going to calculate the price. Or if you use dynamic pricing, you can let RPM come out here, look through the price schedules, and figure out which one matches the criteria and which one should it use. And if you have more than one, it will look at this dynamic pricing rank to figure out which one it should use first. So let's go in and take a closer look. And this is where you mark it to use in dynamic pricing and give it a rank. You could assign a filter here. So if you wanted to have price schedules based on customers, you could do that, or even a date range. But this is where you assign that base price. So again, I used item cost, but you could use item list price or even just whatever you type on the transaction in Acumatica. You could also use rounding rules if you always wanted it to end in 99 cents or 50 cents or round up to multiples of 5. You could do that too. But here's those price calculations. And so notice I have 3 different markups on one price schedule. And again, that's because I have different loyalty pricing. And because I use filters, it's going to know which markup to use when I enter the transaction based on the customer. So you can have multiple price calculations here. I could have even more if I wanted, but it's going to know which ones it needs to use. So we'll go look at the price calculations. We'll hop into the 20% discount. So here I could use a percent adjustment, I could use a fixed adjustment, I could multiply by something, I could use a percent of something else. There's lots of choices. Then you just enter your amount. You can enter a negative or a positive amount. But this is where that modify unit price comes in. If I want this calculation to affect my unit price, either increase or decrease, I just want to make sure I mark that. In the case of the rebate, where I'm really just tracking it, I don't have this option marked. And then from the base starting price, again, lots of flexibility. You can either take each calculation and base it from just that item cost in my example, or if I don't mark this option, it's going to calculate based off of the last calculation. So it would take the item cost, and then it would take the markup, and then the discount. So it really depends on how you want to calculate that out. And here we'll take a look at filters, but I have a special item discount filter. And again, you could even use rounding rules on your price calculation if you want. And down here, though, is where you are going to track those GL accounts. You'll have to disregard the accounts that I use for my debits and credits. I have a tendency just to randomly select accounts, whether there's a rhyme or reason. And then this is also where you can mark that user can edit. So we'll look at one of these markups as well. So here I can see I have a pricing filter. They each have their own pricing filter. And then here's that service fee where I've marked user can edit. But if we look at pricing filters, we'll just hop in here. I can see I used a customer attribute of class in this instance, and it's equal to my local customer class. So they get the 25% markup. So you can kind of see how these all flow together to help you guide your pricing. But once you have this set up, you might want to come in and test it out and find out how is it actually calculating? Is it working as I expect? And so to do that, you could use these pricing scenarios. They're basically test scenarios. So we'll hop in here, and you could set up as many as you want, but that way, once you have them set up, you can just execute them when you want. But here I have my 25% markup customers that I'm testing out. I have my expected unit price of $562.50. This is what I think it's supposed to be. And if I wanted to, I could come in, change the item, I could change the customer, but I'll just leave everything as it is and go ahead and click execute. And it's telling me a price was found, but it doesn't match this expected unit price. So if I click the results tab, I can take a look and figure out how it calculated. And sure enough, it's $3 more than what I thought it was. And that's because when I put this amount in there, I forgot about the service fee. So I could just change this to $565.50, and then the next time I run it, save it, and I execute, now a price was found successfully. Notice the view diagnostics. This is here as well. So if I get results that I'm not expecting, I can kind of go through, figure out what it looked at, what it included, and how it got to that end price. So again, great troubleshooting tool. But now you might be wondering, what if I made a change to my pricing? So let's go in and change a price calculation. We'll change this fee to $7. Save and close it. But I want this fee to the change to the fee to affect this transaction that I've already entered. That's easy enough to do. I can come in and recalculate my prices. And now it's $7. So you can update your pricing after you've made changes if you need to. So you can update the transactions. All right, well, that went pretty fast for the most part. Let's hop over here. Come on, there we go. So that was just one example of pricing in RPM. As you can see, there's lots of different ways to do your pricing. It just adds a lot of flexibility, and pretty much anything that you need to do when it comes to pricing, there's more than one way to accomplish it in RPM. If you'd like to see more on RPM, Rockton will be doing a webinar on September 21st at 12 o'clock Mountain Standard Time. Some of the information will be the same, but we'll also be taking a closer look at some other features like using price books or volume and tiered pricing, or also rebate management is another thing. So Jen is going to be adding the link in the chat so you can sign up for that webinar if you want to. Otherwise, if you have any questions or you'd like more information, you can contact us at 8774 Rockton. There's also sales at Rockton Software. You can just email us with any questions, or you can visit our website at rocktonsoftware.com. I appreciate you joining us for the session. I'm going to hop over and see if there's any questions.
Please also go over to the expo booth and see Rockton there.
Yes, we'll be monitoring that booth as well. Let me hop over here. Nope, looks pretty quiet.
I think you showed that quite well.
Thank you. It always seems to go faster once you get on the live session. But I can kind of hang around here too for a while and see if anyone thinks of any questions. You bet. I don't have any funny hats. I might have Minnie Mouse ears around here somewhere, but otherwise, that's it.
Steve, why would you think they would have funny hats? I think people just have nice hats.
I mean, I am in North Dakota, so we have a lot of like stocking caps and things like that. Oh, Fargo movie hat. Oh, yeah, that movie.
But the accent is more of a Minnesota accent. I've always been confused by that.
It is. Well, and most of the movie actually took place in Minnesota. It just started there.
Okay.
Yeah, I will admit, because I grew up in Minnesota, and if you get into some of those smaller towns, you definitely hear that accent, for sure.
Karen, the answer is protective gear.
I don't know if the one is operating a wood chipper. Isn't it the one with the little flaps? The fur hat with the flaps.
Well, Rhonda, you do have one of those in your closet.
I don't. I can honestly say. We did have the wood chipper here in Fargo for a while at, I think it was the visitor center. It might still be there for all I know. I don't usually go there. That great scene of the movie.
So Rhonda, the API call seems very fast, and it's always calling when you're updating pricing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep. There's pretty much anything that you change will trigger a call to verify that, did you change anything that's going to affect the pricing?
Last time we did a demo of this, people were asking about creating customer price lists. That gets a little bit complicated just because of the structure. Has that been addressed, or is that still kind of an open question?
Can you say that again? What?
Creating customer price lists. So one of the things in acumatic is you can create a customer price list, but if the pricing is dynamic, that's pretty hard to do. Um,
Yep. It's
eh,
actually something that is currently being worked on.
okay, I've heard that before. I was
Yep.
just looking for an update. So
Yep.
okay,
It's I can actually tell you it's much closer, just which I just heard this week.
because
So so yeah.
that would be just a huge value to be able
Mhm.
to provide some price lists to people because you know how distributors are. They
Yep.
always want to just have their price list.
Yep. That's kinda how they're I I don't remember what he was calling it, but yeah, that was he was coding it as we speak. So hopefully
Good.
soon. I'm not sure how much time will need to be put into that, but yes, it's definitely something they're working on.
There's a couple people who will be excited to hear that.
Yep. Actually, under the
Probably
Q&A,
everybody in your sales group will be excited to hear that too, because
yes, for sure.
they're
Yep.
tired of that question.
So, how does the product handle best pricing based on all rules, especially when certain rules may be true for one customer or false for another? I'm not fully sure of that question, but so if you mean by rules different calculations, it's usually driven by those filters. The filters can really drive when one rule applies to whatever customer based on other customers. I think that's what he was asking.
So two last minutes pieces of housekeeping. The first is to visit the Expo Center, um, see Rhonda's friends over at Rockton there, also see other people who've presented, and sign up for prizes. Lots of prizes out there. So enjoy. Happy acuCONNECT Conference Day to those who celebrate. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Cheers.